to read between the lines. Got to read between the lines. Well, the truth is very simple, very hard to find.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of What's Going On. I'm your host, Tom D'Ambra. As always, my friends, we are very thankful you take the time from your busy day to view our program. We have a tremendous amount of information to go over with you in this short hour. So let's get right to it. I would like to speak first about Newt Gingrich coming out telling the world why the Republican establishment, not the Republican Party, to use his words, the Republican establishment is afraid of Donald Trump. And there wasn't a lot of this brought out in the mainstream media, of course. And I'm going to tell you the reason why there wasn't. And I don't know if, I'm sure Mr. Gingrich making this public statement had permission to do so. But his statement was that the Republican establishment is afraid of Donald Trump because he is not a member of the quote-unquote secret society, and he has not taken the initiation process yet. They cannot control him. My friends, people like myself for the last 30, 40 years have been talking about how our government is controlled and everything is orchestrated through these secret societies. A lot of people laugh at the idea that, you know, there is a true conspiracy controlled by secret societies that control every aspect of our government, from the policymakers to the courts to the judges to the police. Not the people, not the police on the ground, but the people who are giving the orders, the DOJ, the Department of Just Us, and so forth, are all controlled, the high echelon of the military, all controlled by secret society people. A lot has come out in the past about the Bilderbergs, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateralist Commissions, all these different organizations that are marching the world to a controlled new world order. And a lot of people, just the word New World Order, will say, well, you know, that's a facade. Well, look at the back of what you call your dollar, which is not a dollar. And if you've been watching this program, you know that we have Federal Reserve notes. We do not have dollars because a dollar is 25.8 grains of gold and a 51 ratio of silver. You have no gold. You have no silver. You have Federal Reserve notes. A note is an acknowledgement of debt, and you are the co-surety to that debt. Now, for Newt Gingrich to come out and make this statement is very interesting to me. I'm not surprised that the Republican establishment, and folks, don't think it's anything different with the Democratic establishment, because the Democratic Party establishment is the same thing. They're controlled by these same entities. And basically what's going on is that Newt Gingrich has told the world why they do not want Donald Trump to be the president, or as I like to say, the CEO of the insolvent corporation USA Inc., USA Incorporated. And that's because, as Newt Gingrich said, they do not control him. They cannot trust him. And what that should also tell you, my friends, is that every president since LBJ has been a member and or cooperated with these secret societies. The only president that I questioned that was not was Ronald Reagan. And look what happened to Ronald Reagan, what was it, day 89 or day 88 of his presidency, that he was shot. Understand that they tried to rob the election from Ronald Reagan, but it was such a landslide that they couldn't do it. And hence, Ronald Reagan begrudgingly, he did not want George Bush to be his vice president. By the threat of duress, he took George Bush to be his VP. And I can assure you, the Bush family goes back a long, long way with these different secret societies, Skull and Bones, Yale 322, and all these different societies that the Bush family goes back to quite a way. And you know, it's interesting enough. you find out that these secret societies, and we've done shows on this, are not just here in the United States, my friends. Hitler was part of one, Stalin, Lenin. They're all part of these banker-run secret societies, and the reason why they do not want Trump, according to former House Speaker Newt Gingrich, is because Mr. Trump is not and has not ever become a member of these secret societies. He has never taken the initiation process. When the initiation process, my friends, is a very ugly thing, but what the end of it comes to be is that you are making an allegiance to the mechanisms of that secret society. And that secret society is taking us to the road of World War III, unless other people can stop the mayhem. Okay, before we get into some very interesting things, what's going on in the world of money, and I mean real money, I'd like to read a quote to you from a just recently retired general. This source is a very trusted source on my part. He obviously left his name out, the general, but I will tell you that the source that we took this from is one that I have been using for over 35 years. And I will tell you, actually 30 years, and the source is always very sure of the information, and also I have discovered that the source that I go to for one of the sources I go to information happens to be this source. These two gentlemen, the general and the person who's in charge of the site of the source, that he agreed to print this out and got permission from the general to print it to, basically have been friends and working with each other for decades. So let us get to this quote. Now, I want to remind you that this general just retired, and his MOS, his job, his military occupational specialty, is or was to literally plan on sequels of different wars. And when I read his statement to you, you'll have a better understanding of what I'm speaking of. Okay. And this is a side note from the source. The source is Steve Quayle. Absolutely phenomenal researcher. And this is his side note here. This is from Steve Quayle. From my brigadier general friend, just retired, now residing out of the country. My friends, this general has taken his family and his loved ones and left the country. That should tell you a lot. This guy has been in the military for decades. He worked at the Pentagon. He knows what they have planned. And then he goes on, a general's warning, copyright claimed may be shared, provided the link back to his alerts and to my alerts, and the alert would be again. And I give all the thanks to him, Steve Quayle, stevequayle.com. And this is the general's note. Hi, Steve. Please put this in I need to get this off my chest category. I know you know most, if not all of this, but I believe as a somewhat recently retired U.S. Army general, I have an obligation to put this information out there. We have all heard it said that generals are always fighting the last war. I did not find that true during my military career. In fact, I found the opposite. There were many exceptional smart men and women who strained to look through the fog into the future in anticipation of what would come next. The problem is, this is extremely difficult to do. Do you think post-World War II and to some extent post-Korean War planners could have envisioned the Vietnam War? Well, I will tell you yes, my friends. This is my own comment because we fabricated and instructed that war. Do you think post-Vietnam planners could foresee kicking in doors in Afghanistan and Iraq? I will tell you again my comment, yes, because we planned and implemented that war. As you know, the Pentagon has war plans for many multiple contingencies, along with the concomitant branches and sequels. Some predict total war, but those plans rarely see the public eye. With today's technologies and weaponry, it is too difficult to fathom that any nation could go down this path. And besides, anyone in a position of power who publicly predicted such a war and urged immediate preparation would likely see his or her career end rather quickly. Yet, sadly, history would indicate total war is the most likely next outcome. Those who fought the last total war, World War II, have mostly passed. Those who remain have seen their voices grow dim. They are now in the fourth generation from World War II, and all current U.S. generations have become to believe the following about war. Number one, their beliefs are that wars are protracted affairs that can last a decade or more. Two, wars are low-level conflicts. Three, wars do not affect the general populace of the United States. In other words, folks, we bomb others, but they don't bomb us. Four, only a few are needed to prosecute a war. And when you do a little bit of research on this, you realize that currently less than 0.5% of our population have served in the military. And that's rather interesting when you think that only 0.5% have served in the military in our country, but yet what's the number one threat to the United States government according to the Department of Homeland Security? Veterans. We read this to you many times. Veterans are the number one terrorist threat according to the Department of Homeland Security. But yet, my friends, they only make up 0.5% of the total population. What does that tell you about the rest of the population? Let us continue with the general's warning. War is good for the economy. The status quo is maintained regardless of the war's outcome. God is on our side. So these are the beliefs of the three generations since World War II. The general continues, if history is any guide, all of the above beliefs will be shattered during the next war. Steve, there are historical war cycles. Not every war can be total, like World War II, a standoff, like Korea, or swiftly victorious but without change, like Desert Storm, or indecisive, like Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan. There is a rhyme and rhythm to human conflict, and we are on the course for total war. Strauss and Howe to an excellent job of explaining such cycles in their 1997 classic book, The Fourth Turning. My friends, I highly recommend you read that book. I read that book just about 20 years ago. Absolutely phenomenal, and it really made me understand the cycles of human nature. Let's continue with the general. With that said, I believe that the next war will, and now he's going to give you his synopsis. 1, last only 2 to 3 weeks. 2, be a high-level conflict where more people will die than in all previous wars combined. 3, see the general U.S. population targeted and stunned at the devastation. 4, affect everyone, not just those in uniform. 5, decimate the economy. Those not killed directly will struggle to survive post-hostilities. 6, destroy the status quo and usher in a new world order. This is from a just retired brigadier general, my friends. 7, make manifest that God is no longer on our side. We chose to abandon him, and so he honored our free will. The reality is Americans have not fared well at the beginning of most wars. We get caught off guard, stumble, and suffer casualties we should not suffer. Our strength has been in our ability to recover and adapt. As a people and as a military, we have proven ourselves able to adjust on the fly and overcome overwhelming odds. This trait is not lost on our enemies. Their solution? Win before we can adjust. Attack so hard and so fast we cannot get up. The Japanese had this idea at Pearl Harbor, but did not have the means to execute the strategy. Today's weapons/technologies allow for such a strategy to be successful. And my friends, I want to stop here with one interjection, if I may. Think of the industry that we had in these previous wars. You know, we were making refrigerators, so we had to change gears in the industry, the factories to make bombs and bullets. Well, you can't find an American-made TV, refrigerator, or anything too much these days. There is not a lot of industry left in this country. We do not have the up and running and functioning factories and industry to change gears to make bombs and bullets. Most of the weaponry that we use, well, not most, a slight minority of it is, and some very important aspects of it, is built in China. For instance, the guidance system for the Tomahawk cruise missile, which used to be made in Indiana, is now made in China. And I want you to think about that. If you create the guidance system for any entity, I don't care what it is, but if you are creating the guidance system for it, then you know everything, absolutely everything about that entity. Its usage, its ordnance, its mechanisms, its mechanics, its fuel usage, its ranges, everything, because you are making the guidance system for it. You have to know everything. We do not have that opportunity, as the general said, to stumble and suffer casualties. One, the technology is greatly advanced, and two, we have no industrial base to change gears and make bombs and bullets anymore. We are a service economy. We serve drinks and hamburgers. And remember George Bush, second. Actually, every time a hamburger is flipped at McDonald's or anywhere, guess what? It's now under manufacturing. Do you remember that? We read that to you. Okay, let us continue with the general statement. The difficulty for most American leaders is that they have been brought up to believe that there is a linear path to things such as civilization's progress, economic growth, cultural achievement, technological advancement, military improvement, and so on. Yet this has never been the case. Things cycle. The ancients knew this. Our founding fathers knew this. Linear thinking is a relatively new mindset, fueled and reinforced in large part by the industrial and technological revolutions. And while the material achievements have been amazing and seemingly straight up, the human condition has not changed. Like everything in nature, human behavior cycles. As an aside, the Romans also believed that technological advances were linear and destined to grow to the sky. Yet after the empire fell, Europe forgot how to make concrete for over 700 years. When Rome fell, knowledge was lost in the areas of healthcare, agriculture, hygiene, plumbing, engineering, etc. This knowledge was not recovered until centuries later. Thus, even technology cycles, if you look back far enough, cycle. The point is, among other things, industrial and technological advances have reinforced a false belief system that the past is prologued. Despite overwhelming historical evidence to the contrary, the result is we are turning down a destructive path that many Americans can feel but cannot articulate. This is not intended as fear-mongering. There is plenty of non-substantiated nonsense out there. As hard as it is to write, however, there is substantial evidence to indicate that total war is on the horizon. I believe future historians will look back and say, how could they have not seen the path they were on? Your website has offered many solutions to what people should do. Your recent prepper articles have been outstanding. Of course, the best way to live through total war is to not participate in it. Given this, what can the average American do? 1. Leave the battlefield, which in total war is the entire nation. Go south of the equator. 2. If you can't leave the country, leave the urban areas. 3. Prepare as best as you can for the war and its aftermath. 4. Get right with God. I believe that should be number 1. 5. Be attuned to the promptings of the Holy Spirit. The early Christians were told via visions, dreams, and prophets to flee before the Romans sacked the city in 70 AD. There is another issue. Your readers are going to have to make a judgment call as to whether the next war is God's judgment war. If you determine in the affirmative, then your bravery, good intentions, self-sacrifice, and noble deeds will be in vain. You will not be fighting a foreign foe. You will be fighting his will. You will lose. And please do not fall into the trap that at least we are better than the other guys. The Egyptians, Assyrians, and Babylonians were not saints. Yet God used them to judge ancient Israel and Judah. Thankfully, Steve, you get it, and have gotten it for a long time. We are trying to save lives, both in the physical and the eternal. I am merely adding my voice to yours. I hope this small contribution will convince those who are on the fence to recognize the current situation and take appropriate action. Is there hope? Of course. But it would require repentance and revival on a scale that we have not seen for a long time in the United States. Your friend in Christ, Greg, Brigadier General, U.S. Army, retired. My friends, you had better heed this man's words. He has just retired from the Pentagon. He knows what's going on. Very, very important that we understand this. Okay, let's get into some interesting things here. Jacob Rothschild. Now, if you know who Jacob Rothschild is part of the, actually, he's the richest man in the world right now, him and Evelyn Rothschild, and Evelyn is a man. Jacob Rothschild just recently made a very interesting quote, and it says this. Jacob Rothschild says, Vladimir Putin a traitor to the New World Order. Putin's refusal to toe the line, New World Order line, makes Jacob Rothschild nervous, as he needs Russia on their side in order to fulfill the Illuminati agenda. Now, don't start laughing because you heard the word Illuminati. How about doing some research and understanding that they have been documented for centuries as in existence? We know that they, where they were set up, in Bavaria. We know the times, the dates, 1776. I mean, folks, this isn't make-believe. This is reality. Obama is really getting on Putin's nerves, though, because he can't see why he's doing these things. He's doing his own people and also warning Americans to keep their guns. Obama, Barry Soetoro, is telling you, we need to take your guns, and Putin's telling you, the American people, to keep your guns. Putin's actually putting guns back into the society in Russia, believe it or not. And I know we've touched on this. I know no more than anyone else about Putin, but I can deduce some things that might make sense. First, he would not have reached up as high as he has, just like in America, if he had not been one of them or on their side. He would never have been ahead of their intelligence KGB if he was not one of them, and he would never have made it to president. That's true. But you got to understand some things about the system of the old KBG. If you were a brilliant person, my friends, you automatically were taken in by the KGB. And as for being president, I do not believe that, because I'll tell you why. The Russian people have not had to read to learn of the brutal history of communism, which, by the way, we financed. That's right, we financed Lenin, the Bolshevik Revolution. We financed Stalin. I know we've gotten into that before. We financed Hitler. We financed Pol Pot. We financed Ho Chi Minh. Excuse me. Yeah, well, actually, we did finance Ho Chi Minh, but I wasn't thinking of at the time. So anyway, I just want you to understand that when you have a person like Jacob Rothschild publicly calling Putin a traitor to the New World Order, that is very, very interesting to me. It also explains to me, as we have thought in the past, that Vladimir Putin is for real. As a matter of fact, next week we're going to be talking to you about his big push against vaccinations and GMO food, how Russia is now the #1 producer in the world of non-GMO food, how Putin is going public about what's in your vaccinations. Anyway, that's for a show for next week. Mr. Putin, with the picture behind me here, this is when Mr. Putin is going now and he is showing the world that Russia has gold. My question to you, my fellow Americans, is this. When's the last time you saw supposedly our gold? Have you ever seen our gold? Have you ever had Fort Knox opened and audited in your lifetime? Well, I will tell you that if you're 50 years or younger, the answer is no, you have not. Yet, Vladimir Putin is letting the world know why Russia is now the #1 purchaser and hoarder, if you would, of gold. Let us read this. This is Pravda. Russia becomes world's largest buyer of gold. The IMF could not but pay attention to the recent actions of the Russian authorities. It turned out that the Bank of Russia became the world's largest buyer of gold among all banks of the planet as of January 2016. International Monetary Fund experts said that the Bank of Russia acquired over 688,000 ounces of gold. The statistics do not include China. Reportedly, the Chinese central bank also purchased about 520 ounces of gold. And I will tell you, my friends, number 3 on that equation was the country of India. Spokespeople for the Bank of Russia said that Russia's gold and currency reserves increased by $3.2 billion to $368.3 billion, and gold thus accounts for $52 billion in Russia's gold and currency reserves. This is quite an attack on the almighty dollar. Russian President Putin buys a lot of gold without attracting much attention to it. As long as political circles fear a new Cold War between Moscow and the West, this war has already erupted in the financial sector, said Germany's Die Welt. My friends, as I've told you from the beginning, all wars are based on currency and debt. All wars. They have to come up with these facades to sell it to you. USS Maddox, weapons of mass destruction, 9/11, whatever. But all wars, as Sherman Webster teaches so well, are a settlement of currency and debt. That's what these wars are about. When you look at why your sons and daughters wore pretty little uniforms and went into Iraq since 1991, it was because Hussein was about to open up a currency, the dinar, based on a barrel of international oil, and it was going to threaten the hegemony of the Bretton Woods Agreement, the petrodollar. When you look at why we sent our agent provocateurs, Al-Qaeda, into Libya, it was because Gaddafi said, I will no longer accept the petrodollar for my oil, and I will accept gold. When you look why we went into the Sudan and Yemen, for the same reasons. When you look why we're going into Syria, it is because the Rothschilds do not control the central bank in Syria. And when you look why we are going to go to Iran, it is because the Rothschilds, the same Rothschilds we just made the quote to you about Putin being a traitor to the New World Order, do not control the central bank of Iran. This, my friends, is why your sons and daughters are bleeding. This is why Mr. Putin is letting the world, and more importantly, his people, see that, yes, we, the Russians, do have gold. And also, we're going to get into what he said he is going to do with this gold and the reasons why. According to German economist, Putin is trying to undermine the power of the United States and Europe. Those who buy gold stand in the way for the Western currencies and their global domination. This is from Germany. This isn't from Russia. Let me read this again. So it's very important you understand this. Those who buy gold stand in the way for Western currencies and their global domination. This is part of Putin's plan. Leading publications around the world stated the buzz about the anti-dollar intentions of Russia and China. It appears that Russia and China have indeed decided to create a counterweight to the supremacy of the dollar. Die Welt's economic analysis Holger Zappitz said, excuse me if I butchered his name, he adds that the Kremlin has been secretly and purposely buying gold. Russia's massive purchase of gold could be a major plan and geopolitical strategy of the Kremlin to get rid of the dependence on the dollar in the event of the Western tightened sanctions on Russia further. I totally believe that is exactly what's going on. The Daily Telegraph, that's out of London, wrote that the Kremlin took advantage of declining prices on gold recently, this past month, by buying 55 tons of the precious metal, more than any other country. Incredible. Now we're going to see, what is Mr. Putin going to be doing with this gold? This is from a speech that Mr. Putin made to the Russian people last week. This is what he said. Headline, Putin: Russia will never become a new world order cashless society. You will. That's what they got plans for you. My friend, you are going to start to hear rumblings of getting rid of the $100 bill. Soft baby steps to take you down the road to a cashless society. 2 nights ago, Sweden announced that they will be completely cashless within 5 years. Putin has told the New World Order he's not going along with this. President Putin swears he will never stop the circulation of cold, hard cash because he considers a cashless society to be a New World Order tactic to gain control over the public. Brave Vladimir Putin is pushing for a gold-backed currency. Now you know why we're going to go to war with Russia. Ditching fractional reserve banking and delivering a defiant rebuke to the Western world's move towards a digital-only cashless society, according to a report circulated in the Kremlin on Friday. My friends, this is exactly where they're taking us. And they're getting you used. I mean, you can't go into a market and they ask you, debit or credit, debit or credit. Well, you know what? 80% of the people that I see in public are not paying with cash anymore. They're paying with cards, plastic. They've already sowed the seed in your mind. And of course, the average American has no understanding at all of economics. They think we have dollars, we have Federal Reserve notes. They think there's gold and silver and intrinsic value to our currency. There's the co-surety to the debt. How more ignorant can you be? How more vulnerable in a position can the American people be put in? All without the use of bullets and guns, my friends, but with the placency of your ignorance and your apathy. Let us continue. President Putin swears he will never stop the circulation of cold hard cash because he believes digital-only cashless currency to be a New World Order tactic to gain control over the public. President Putin has stated his desire, now listen to his words, to destroy the Illuminati in 2016. This Illuminati, my friends, is real. It's the secret society that Newt Gingrich just got done telling you about, the reason why they are afraid of Trump. Because Trump, like Putin, is not participating in the game. This is the reason that they are doing all they can to stop Trump. Let me start this over again. President Putin has stated his desire to destroy the Illuminati in 2016. And according to the Kremlin insiders, he believes disrupting the global banking cartel's plans to ban cash is a key campaign in his war against the New World Order. This man is not only brave, this man is a nationalist for his people. And I am going to tell you, the last time we had a nationalist president, he wound up being assassinated in Dallas, Texas. Listen to his words. He believes disrupting the global banking cartel's plan to ban cash is a key campaign in his war against the New World Order. The Rothschilds, Jacob Rothschild, who just called them a traitor to the New World Order, control the global banking lobby, want a digital cashless system because this will give them even more control over all of us. They want to monitor and control every single transaction while destroying real-world currency so they can issue money that doesn't exist, creating impossible financial burdens for the masses, and all the while accumulating extraordinary wealth and power for themselves. Now, if you're sitting there saying, what do you mean issue money that doesn't exist? Well, two things, and I'm not insulting you, but understand you are ignorant of our money system, or as I say, our lack of money system. Understand that. We do not have money. Money does not encompass debt. You do not have dollars, as I just explained to you. You have Federal Reserve notes, and you and your children, through an entity called the birth certificate, have become the co-surety to that debt, and it is basically a moneyless issue. Because money, according to Black's Law Dictionary, does not encompass debt. Well, what's a note, my friends? A note is an acknowledgement of debt. Understand. Our money, true money, has been usurped. It's been stolen. And Vladimir Putin, with the picture behind me, is showing the world that, yes, Russia has possession of its gold. When's the last time America saw, supposedly, its gold? And as I said earlier, if you're 50 years or younger, you have not seen it. And I will tell you right now, if you think they're storing it in Fort Knox, you are more naive than I can even believe. Let us continue. Populations relying on a fully digital cashless grid will be incredibly vulnerable in times of crisis, according to Putin. A terrorist or military attack or even a storm or power outage would mean the end of a functional economy. Payments would stop, the economy would grind to a halt, and life as we know it would end. A new, desperate climate would take hold, with entire populations left vulnerable and helpless, completely under the control of their government and the shadowy elites pulling the strings. Do you think you're going to hear words like that from our elected officials? I don't believe so. You know, I was studying some stuff for next week's show, and I just want to do this real quick back to Mr. Putin. This is his quote. The Western governments-controlled people are an intensively vaccinated, borderline autistic fat man slumped in front of a screen, battling a high fructose corn syrup come-down. The Russian people must be protected at all cost. That's a little sow the seed for next week's show, my friends. Wait till you see what Mr. Putin has to say about GMO foods. Wait till you see what Mr. Putin has to say about the vaccines you're letting your children take. Wait till you see what Mr. Putin has to say about Russia's plans and what they're doing. You know, we have had many warnings. The gentleman behind me, Andrew Jackson, fought the bankers tooth and nail. He called them a den of vipers, and by the hand of God, I will rout you out, is what he said. The last time the United States government, my friends, had a positive budget, in other words, we weren't in the negative, was during this gentleman's administration. The bankers have kept us in debt ever since. And God's providence did protect Mr. Jackson. If you want to see some very interesting things of how he was protected, there was a Rothschild agent that made way to Mr. Jackson and had 2 pistols literally 2 feet from his chest. Some accounts are that he had the guns against his chest. Both guns misfired and did not shoot. God's providence. Look that up. Mr. Jackson gave us a lot of warnings about the bankers. And the reason why they put him on the $20 bill was because it was a slap in his face to the fact that they won. Not on his watch. He surely defeated him. But they brought us into another war to bring in another central bank, and that was the Civil War. And they brought us into more wars after that. They created a lot of economic crisis. As Charles Lindbergh Sr. said, that basically recessions and depressions were as easily as figuring a mathematical equation now. As Louis T. McFadden tried to warn the American people that these people were going to destroy the world and enslave us all. My friends, as President John F. Kennedy tried to warn the American people that, and I will quote here, "For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that lies on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of election." Boy, does that not go true so much today with what's going on with Hillary Clinton. "On intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system that has conspired vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations." Unbelievable, my friends. That was JFK some months before he was assassinated in Dallas. Listen to this quote from former FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover. This is 1956. "The individual is handicapped by coming face to face with a conspiracy so monstrous he cannot even believe it exists. The American mind simply has not come to a realization of the evil which has been introduced in our midst. It rejects even the assumption that human creatures could espouse a philosophy which must ultimately destroy all that is good and decent." FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover, 1956. Now, I also want to read a quote to you from a document that we covered some time ago, and it's called Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. And I will tell you, my friends, as I said to you before, if you don't mind being flagged, of course we're all flagged, but if you don't mind being a higher echelon of flagging by the powers to be, then don't bring this document up on your private computer. Go to the library or public computer source and bring this document up. Because I will tell you, I know firsthand that anybody that researches this document is put on a list, and we have 3 lists that the government goes by, and you will probably be placed on the red list because, number one, the most dangerous thing to these bankers is that you gain knowledge. Okay, the name of this document is Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, and I'm going to read this verbatim to you. This isn't the whole document, this is just a caption of it. "A silent weapons system operates upon data obtained from a docile public, but legal, not always lawful, force." Let me read that again. "A silent weapons system operates upon data obtained from a docile public by legal, but not always lawful, force. When the government is able to collect tax and seize private property without justification, it is an indication that the public is ripe for surrender and is consenting to enslavement and legal encroachment. That I will read again, because this is exactly where the American people are. We are ripe for the picking. This is their own document, my friends. This isn't Tom DeAmber making this up. This is their own document. When the government is able to collect, tax, and seize private property without justification, it is an indication that the public is ripe for surrender and is consenting to enslavement and legal encroachment. War is therefore the balancing of the system by killing the true creditors, the public, which we have taught to exchange true value for inflated fiat currency. And they've done a wonderful job of it. As I said, as Henry Ford said even better in 1933, it is well the American people do not understand our money and banking system, for if they did, I fear there would be revolution by morning. Henry Ford. War is therefore the balancing of the system by killing the true creditors, the public, which we have taught to exchange true value for inflated fiat currency, and falling back on whatever is left of the resources of nature and regeneration of those resources. Until such energy dominance is absolutely established, the consent of the people to labor and let others handle their affairs must be taken into consideration, since failure to do so could cause the people to interfere in the final transfer of energy sources to the control of the elite. Folks, this is their own writing. This is the same organization that Jacob Rothschild's talking about, that Putin is a traitor to. This is the same organization that Newt Gingrich, former Speaker of the House, has come out and told you publicly the reason why the Republican establishment is afraid of Trump, because Trump's not part of this. Let us continue. It is essential to recognize that at this time, public consent is still an essential key to the release of energy in the process of economic domination and amplification. Therefore, consent as an energy release mechanism will now be considered. By the way, my friends, that document was written in 1954. Do you think they've done what they were setting out to do 60-something years later? They have been very successful. And when we read this document to you, we read to you how they were going to take over the control of the economic system, the education system, the political system. Remember the quote about, we will give them the perceived choice to vote the bums out, left or right, but we will control both entities. My friends, Bernie Sanders is getting one hell of a good lesson here about who really controls the world of politics in this country. And so isn't Donald Trump. You'd think the Republican Party would be thrilled that they have a guy, a candidate, that is leading in all polls, the greatest landslide since Ronald Reagan. We have had many who have tried to warn the American people. Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Jackson, now Vladimir Putin, now Newt Gingrich, although I still question his motives. You see, my friends, they've denied their existence for all these years, but now to be the savior of the people from the crisis they created, well, naturally, they have to introduce themselves. After all, how could you have faith that they can save the day if you do not even believe they exist? They have to now make you aware that they exist so they can save the day from the crisis that they created. Another gentleman who has tried to warn the American people quite diligently is Paul Craig Roberts, former Undersecretary of the Treasury, former editor of Wall Street Journal. His accolades go on and go on and go on. And we've read to you his passage 2 weeks ago, and he agreed with the retired brigadier general that we read to you verbatim his statement about total war coming, but it's right around the corner. And understand, my friends, this general has taken his family and his loved ones and left the country, as so many people in the know have, including the rich and the elite. To use as an example, and you can look this up, I ask you to always look up everything, the Bush clan purchased over 300,000 acres, I believe it was, in the country of Paraguay. Mr. Paul Craig Roberts, my friends, is a very serious individual. He has been in all them backroom meetings with the invincible government people that you believe don't exist. He knows where they are taking us. He sees the road ahead for the American people, and he is doing everything he can to warn you. And he is telling you that your apathy and your ignorance are not going to win the day. You must get active in research, in discovery, in truth. Mr. Roberts is a very brave man. He is well-to-do financially. He does not need to go out and make $1 for speaking. He does not need to come out with his inside information the way he is. Try to explain to the American people that you are being taken down the road to utter destruction. And after you send your sons and daughters in pretty little uniforms to go and destroy the world, and this world gets destroyed, they will buy the world for pennies on the dollar, and they will charge you to rebuild the world that they destroyed. Just as they did with the Marshall Plan in Europe and Asia and other countries. Vietnam and so forth. My friends, we are in very much dire straits. And I will tell you this election coming up, and I am not telling you to vote for Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders or anybody, but I'm telling you to get out there and vote. And I know some people say, well, if you vote, you're part of the corporation. That's true, because you are only voting for corporate board members when you vote. I understand that. I get that. I have read that to you verbatim. But my friends, unfortunately, it is the system that we are entangled with right now. There are two systems out there. There is the corporate USA and there is the Republic USA of common law, of an intrinsic valued money system, of a representative government. We don't have that anymore. We have corporate law, courts controlled by foreign entities. That's what the bar is. We've read this to you, the bar, British Accreditation Registry. Why the heck do you think they're called esquires? Because an esquire is British, a title of nobility. That's why we have the bar. That's why they're called esquires. You are participating in commercial law, not common law, because if you were participating in common law, you would have to do harm to somebody or somebody's property before you got tangled into this mess to begin with. It's USA Inc., United States Incorporated, and that incorporation is insolvent to international bankers, just as the Federal Reserve is a private, for-profit banking corporation. Just as the IRS, two courts have come out and said the IRS is a private, non-governmental corporation. We read this to you years ago. Title 26, where does your money go when you pay income taxes? To the debt, to the International Monetary Fund. It does not go to your roads. It does not go to your public fool systems. It goes to the bankers. And you remember some years ago we talked about the CIS system? How after you pay fines, a portion of it goes to supplement the judges and everybody else, which really, shouldn't that be a big no-no? Why is it that I can make judgment on you if I am going to be recouping some of what I place on you, as every judge, as every prosecuting attorney does in this country? Why is that? Isn't that a conflict of interest? Well, the only interest they have, my friends, is keeping the little people little. And they are taking us down the road of demise. And historically, For centuries, people have been trying to tell you. History gives us so many examples of where they are capable of taking us. And now we are at what Albert Pike called the culmination crisis. And it's up to you, my friends. It is not up to me. It's not up to Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. It is up to you where and what path and what road they are going to be allowed to take us to, because they are going to encroach and encroach and encroach until finally we say no. So in closing, my friends, we always ask you to seek truth. We ask you to obtain knowledge. We ask you to manifest kindness to your fellow man. And we always close in reminding you that your government is your responsibility. Thank you for watching.